He's got Mike ready to go. I haven't seen that Mike today. Don't put it together.
この上の角度。
Down, down, CCP!
Down, down, CCP!
Down, down, CCP!
Down, down, CCP!
Down, down, Xi Jinping!
Down, down, CCP!
Down, down, Xi Jinping!
Down, down, CCP!
Democracy in China!
Democracy in China! Human rights in China! Democracy in China! Human rights in China! We want freedom!
We want democracy!
We want democracy!
We want democracy!
We want democracy!
Shame on CCP!
Shame on CCP!
Free Hong Kong now!
Free Hong Kong now!
Free China now!
Free China now!
Free Tibet now!
Free Tibet now!
Free Tibet now!
Free Tibet now!
Free Hong Kong now!
Free Hong Kong now!
Free China now!
Free China now!
Keep Taiwan free!
Keep Taiwan free!
Keep Taiwan free!
Keep Taiwan free!
Free China now!
Free China now!
Free China now!
Free China now!
Down with CCP!
Down with CCP!
Down with CCP!
Down with CCP!
Shame on you!
Shame on you!
We want democracy!
We want democracy!
We want democracy!
We want democracy!
看到你，我看到你，我先跟你握手。
反对跨境镇压！反对跨境镇压！整个中共国权！
反对中国国权！
买的饮料买的水。我来得早。老林啊，老林，买了一些饮料和水，啊，需要的拿。买的饮料和水，啊，需要的东西，对吧？
杨平，都在这吃饭，当少数，我当少数，我当少数，就来了，所以能吃2个3个都到家里了，不走了。我这种骗子，
是吧？需要饮料和水是你拿。啊？咋的过来？可能过啊？可能过咋的过来？可能把那到了。
Should we go over and start shooting this? Jimmy, you don't have a stand?
Huh?
You don't have a makeshift stand?
I can put my light stand.
Yeah. Why don't we just do it?
你在哪里？这边，我这里。老梁啊，老梁。
Who does this and doesn't have a mic stand?
You guys step back so we can set up a mic stand, please. You can have it set up the mic stand. 你真的。Set up a mic stand.
Oh, folks, If we can take a few steps back so that everybody can get this, please, okay? We want to set up a mic stand, please. Now, I'm with Fox News, but we want to be able to get the shots and the sound that we do. We basically want the chairman to be able to be in front of a podium so that we can set up our... Yeah, right here.
不是喇叭呢？那不是。拿起来喊。说不上话呀！来。这他们这开始来了。
Can you have people sort of back away a little bit so we can set up a podium for him to speak?
都想跟他照相啊，有人想跟他站在一起照个相啊什么的。他觉得这个主席嘛，这个美国国会呢叫什么？这个叫什么？他叫什么？他叫什么主席
I don't know if Courtney archived that stuff, so. At the skit show down here right now.
And they're the ones that want to dine our mayor. See them all waving little red Chinese flags with it.
I would give them a call right now.
我看这个美国国旗，在马路边你看到吧？有一帮人在外头的，这个美国。我操！拉一下那个，拉一下。
把葛刀打掉，不过来了。
好，来，先把心给你，来，哎，昨天晚上到的，隔壁一个酒店，我们加拿大的一个会员帮我订的，要不然我也找不到这么近。
Hello， 中国共产党。
今天中午我跟林天华主席过去，一会儿过去，我还没退房呢。现在问题是这样，现在问题是高度可能不够，还得往上调。
Run like that.
下面能不能往上调一点？OK。好。 基本上就这样了啊。对，高一点，要不然的话太。知道吧？今天长乐工会可惨了，门都不敢进。长乐工会的人，我刚才在后面抽烟。长乐工会的一个哥们儿，哎，你好，你好，哎，梁主席来了，哎，你好，你好。然后长乐工会的人刚才跟我抱怨，说门都不敢开了。我说你有种你开啊。众议员来了，那国会警卫局肯定来了，对吧？啊，我说你有种你来。刚才我在后面抽烟嘛，长乐工会的哥们儿他也跟我聊呢，说。出啥大事了？对，就在这儿107嘛，就在这儿。他们搞不清楚怎么回事，知道吧？奇怪了。
这个中国传统文化影响，狐假虎威嘛，总是已经扛了这个警徽。
反正我是跟他讲得很明白。反正我是跟他讲得很明白，我说你有种你就来。
Yeah, and if we're further back from the speaker, then the noise would equalize better. And we'll show them on the camera better too.
哎呀，子晴在上课是吧？
在边上。
啊，他也来了，子晴。
在边上的。
啊，不容易，不容易。这封信是干什么呢？我现在在看。
因为
我昨天正好刚收到，哎，正好我赶
前信都是寄到那个我县的新地址
是吧？
或公卡。
知道没有？行，我们等会儿出去说。
都到这里来。
他们在架那个音场，所以封所讲说今天他们自己带音场来，我说好，那就最好了。
你们抱歉，你们不能在这儿。Go，这里不要再让别人进来。OK，nobody comes in from this side。
Check, mic check 1, mic check 1. Yep. Mic check 1. Yep.
Down, CCP.
There you go. All right. Perfect. Hello. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here. We got a lot of microphones here. Thank you all for braving the cold, although I'm from Wisconsin, so this is like summer weather for us. But what a great turnout, what an incredible collection of groups that we have here today. This innocent-looking building that you see behind me housed an unauthorized secret police station linked to the Chinese Communist Party. The non-profit Safeguard Defenders discovered over 100 of these illegal police stations around the world, including at least 2 more on United States soil. They're connected to Operation Fox Hunt and the CCP's campaign of transnational repression, which is a terrifying threat to Chinese Americans, to other CCP targets, and to American sovereignty itself. So let me run some quotes by you. Quote, if you're willing to go back to the mainland and spend 10 years in prison, your wife and children will be all right. Quote, post more and I will chop your bastard hands off. Quote, 2 options, return to China promptly or commit suicide. These are actual quotes that CCP agents have said to people here on American soil, according to the Department of Justice and FBI investigations. And I know we have some people here today that weren't just threatened with words, but were actually attacked by CCP thugs 4 years ago. And they got the photos to prove it. To say nothing of physical violence, surveillance of children, and imprisonment of family members that some American citizens have faced. One Chinese American citizen was even detained against her will in China for 8 months while she was pregnant. I've spoken to dozens of dissidents from China and human rights activists. It's rare to find someone who hasn't experienced at least some low-level form of digital harassment from CCP agents. And I'm sure many of you here today have experienced that. So I thank you for your bravery in coming out today. How have we allowed this to happen? on American soil? The answer, in my opinion, is that we have been blind while the CCP has been very cunning. Their threats are often hard to prosecute because they're veiled. It's sort of like saying, nice family you got here. It would be a shame if something happened to them. It's a mafia-like threat because the CCP acts like the mafia. They buy out politicians, multinational organizations, companies, and in some cases law enforcement. They use muscle and threats instead of persuasion. And like the mafia, they aren't afraid to make people disappear. But there's one important difference. Unlike the mafia, the CCP has a much more powerful arsenal at their disposal to back up their strong-arm intimidation tactics. Advanced technology, weaponry, artificial intelligence. They're using a terrifying version of Orwellian techno-totalitarian surveillance to inflict total totalitarian control on the Uyghurs in the Xinjiang region, on Tibetans, and during the zero COVID lockdowns on citizens throughout China. Now, they want to export that repression around the world. And the only thing standing in their way is our will to defend our values. We must stand up, push back, and protect our citizens and the many reformers, freedom fighters, and asylum seekers, many of whom I see here today, who've taken refuge here in the United States. We cannot allow the threat that they have fled to follow them to our shores here in America. The FBI director recently testified that the FBI was opening up a new CCP investigation every 10 hours. Every 10 hours, a new CCP investigation. We in Congress, and I'm honored to have my two colleagues here, Dr. Neil Dunn, Congressman Richie Torres, in bipartisan fashion here today. We in Congress need to make sure that the FBI has the training and resources to deal with this threat. Not just at the FBI headquarters in DC, but at every local field office across the country. And it can't just be federal law enforcement. It needs to be local police trained on this as well. If a victim is brave enough to come forward, no repressive act orchestrated by a foreign government should ever fall on deaf ears. That's a basic promise we make to everyone in the United States, no matter what their background. Together, we will end this transnational repression. We will end this ugly affront to our sovereignty. And we will make sure that the United States is a haven from prosecution, not a hunting ground for authoritarians. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, I'm honored to introduce a true freedom fighter, Joe Feng Suo, who was a leader in the student movement at Tiananmen, who's been speaking bravely about these issues for decades, before I was even born, who was at one point one of the 5 most wanted men in China, I believe, who's president of the Human Rights in China organization. Please join me in welcoming Joe Feng Suo. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Mike Gallagher. Thank you, Congressman Richie Torres. Thank you, Congressman Neil Dunn. We are honored to have you here. This is the first time that the Chinese dissident community feel that their grievance is heard by American public. You are representative of America. We are here because of you. Thank you. You just met my friend Yong Hong. He was a political prisoner in China, arrested twice for 2 years, simply calling for disclosure of the assets of government officials. He was tortured, beaten, and he had to escape the United States for safety of him and himself and his family. 4 years ago, not too far from here, on the street of Manhattan, he was brutally beaten by Chinese thugs, and he had to be sent by ambulance for emergency medical treatment. And there are a few of them who are here today. What's more, the police did nothing, and they arrested one person, one perpetrator on the spot. He was released within the same day. There's nothing done after that. We want justice.
We want justice.
We want justice.
We want justice.
We cannot allow this to happen in American land. We cannot allow this to happen in this land of free and of brave. We are here because we believe in freedom, and we will fight for freedom. Today, there will be echoing rallies in Los Angeles and San Francisco. Why? Because everywhere we have been ignored, marginalized, because of CCP's influence through trade and technology, and because they control so many communities here through the organizations like this, a secret police station in the name of hometown associations. Such organizations must be disbanded. They cannot allow to exist in this country. Guess what? This very association applied and was granted non-profit organization by United States government. That means taxpayer money is funding such organizations. How can this happen? This cannot happen again. We must stop this.
Stop. 抓到共产党！
打倒习近平！
打倒习近平！
暴政必亡！
抓到习近平！
Thank you. Thank you. 34 years ago, I was with millions on Tiananmen Square. It was there for the first time I believed that Chinese people love freedom and democracy, and they were willing to die for it. And the world witnessed their bravery through people like tankmen. There were hundreds of tanks. There were many tankmen. That's what we are hoping for. That's why we are here today. We want a free China. But I didn't imagine that 19 years later, on the street of San Francisco, I was beaten by Chinese flag-waving crowds full of hatred to support CCP's Olympic. I was looking at the devil in the eye. It was that moment I realized we have to fight for this country, because if China is not free, this country is not safe. We are not safe. That's why I cannot rest at any moment to fight against such a regime. Thank you all for coming today. Today is just a starting point. We need more activities like this. We need more victims to speak out. For anyone like Yonghu who speak out, there are tons of them who are so afraid. Even though they are persecuted here by CCP, they are afraid to speak out. I can personally give you such names, dozens of them. End of last year, there is A4 white paper movement in China. It was carried out by the Chinese students here in US university. But one student was threatened that her hands will be cut off if she dared to post banners supporting Chinese democracy again. I'm very glad that FBI acted this time, very timely, and charged this perpetrator. And this is what we need to do. We need to hold them accountable. And there's another one at University of California, Berkeley. A graduate student there burned down a memorial to the people who died in the Urumqi fire of Uyghur families. He burned it down, and he explicitly said, I want to purge this place of anti-CCP messages. This person is still at large. He is still studying at the University of California at Berkeley. He needs to be held accountable. Thank you.
Thank you.
But this is just part of the pervasive influence of CCP in the United States. More importantly, through trade, investment, and technology, Wall Street, academia, research institute, they are all under the influence of CCP. We must stop this. We need legislations to address the influence of CCP on Wall Street, on academia, on research institutes. I hope we will work together on this. We will not stop until China is free.
Free China.
Last 33 years, we have witnessed the failure of American policy towards China, ignoring human rights, China's freedom and democratization in favor of trade and technology exchange. That's what we are getting today. We don't have to look further. Look at this below. Everyone knows what it means. China without democratization is the enemy of the free world, is the enemy of the United States.
Yeah.
We cannot cheat ourselves anymore. Thank you. Stop CCP!
Stop CCP!
Free China!
Free China!
Now it's my honor to introduce a colleague of mine. This isn't his district, but we're close by his district, which is New York 5th, I believe. Did I get that right? 15. I got one number right in that. So I'm from Wisconsin. You know, we only have 8 districts. We don't count higher than that. So, but please join me in welcoming Congressman Richie Torres.
I'm honored to be here. I want to thank Chair Gallagher for amplifying the voices of human rights activists whose voices have gone unheard for far too long. Even though Chair Gallagher and I come from opposing political parties, the unity we are projecting sends a powerful message that the defense of human rights from the abuses of the CCP we're sending a powerful message that the defense of human rights from the abuses of the CCP is not a Democratic value or a Republican value, it's an American value. I am not here because I'm a Democrat, and Mike and Neil are not here because they're Republicans. We are here because we're Americans who believe in the rule of law and human rights and freedom for every single person, including the Chinese dissidents here in the United States. We know that the CCP has a global system of surveillance that not only includes high-altitude surveillance balloons, but also overseas police stations. And we know that the transnational policing is not actually about the solving of crimes. It's about the systematic surveillance and suppression of political dissidents. It's about striking fear in the hearts of critics of the CCP. Freedom has no greater enemy than fear, and striking fear is the point of CCP policing. And so we have a moral obligation to stand with you, to stand for freedom fighters. How can we, the United States of America, claim to be a defender of freedom if we fail to defend freedom fighters within our own borders, here on U.S. soil? And so we have a moral duty to stand with you. A few years ago, the FBI said, the Justice Department said that it's committed to turning Operation Fox Hunt on its head so that the hunters become the hunted and the pursuers become pursued. And we will see to it that that promise is kept and that freedom is defended and justice for dissidents is delivered. Thank you.
And now, a man who truly is not used to this weather because he comes from Florida's 2nd District, a doctor, an Army doctor, a surgeon, Dr. Neil Dunn, my colleague and good friend.
Thank you very much, Chairman Gallagher. You even made it snow for me. I can't say thank you enough. This is actually the friendliest bunch of New Yorkers I've ever run into. They're great. And welcome to your hometown. Things you've done. The number one victim of the CCP is the Chinese people. Number one victim. But when they can come to America and do the same threatening tactics that they do at home, that threatens every one of us. There's nobody in America that's safe here to allow this to go on. We simply cannot tolerate this. It is against every bit of our moral fiber, everything we ever stood for. And I bring you good news. I just returned from a meeting with NATO, and the NATO nations also recognize that this is a big threat to them. They are waking up. The awareness in Europe is getting stronger and stronger. So keep the pressure up. Keep it up here at home in America, home in China, and also in Europe. Because the free world is rallying around you. We do hear your pleas. We are stunned. We are appalled by places like this. But we hear you, and we're responding. God bless you all for fighting. God bless you for the things that you put up with. You're heroes, all of you. Thank you very much, Chairman.
I like that sign that says, "Be free, don't be afraid." Like, don't be free, don't be afraid. My colleague Richie Torres talked about fear as an instrument the CCP uses. What the CCP fears more than anything else is its own people. That's what they fear. And I want to make clear that the Chinese people are not our enemy. The Chinese people are the primary victims of CCP repression. And we stand with them against such repression. And that is what today is all about. So thank you for being willing to come out today. Thank you for fighting for freedom. We all are in this together. This is a beautiful, beautiful event, and I hope it's the first of many. And I'd like to, since you're all getting used to the snow, you're always welcome to come visit me in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Just bring a warmer coat, okay? With that, I think we're happy to, oh, of course, yeah, of course. And we'll answer some questions.
Let me introduce, this is Alan Chen. He's now Executive Director of China Democratic Party. We are honored to have him because for us, it's really hard in the last 34 years to recruit any young people into our camp. And he was a rare exception. He graduated from Columbia, master's degree, and JD from St. John's.
Okay, thank you, President Mike. I think it's not a coincidence, yes, that President Mike just visited Taiwan last week, right? And this is the first stop that he comes to the United States, Chinatown, which has so many Chinese, and the first stop abroad the trip he went to Taiwan. So the meaning is that for the United States government to fight against the CCP, which is the totalitarian regime in human history, which is the strongest evil regime in humankind history, the United States government needs to fight the CCP regime together with anyone who is brave enough to stand against Chinese government, whether it's from Taiwan, whether it's Chinese from here, or whether they are Uyghurs, Tibetans from anywhere. So we know that the United States in the past 70 years have already successfully kept the peace across the Taiwan Strait. It's very good. But right now we understand that Xi Jinping has a bad idea on Taiwan. He wants to take over Taiwan. Actually, since Xi Jinping was sent to Fujian province in around 35 years ago, he already had this idea. Now he's the #1 people in China. He wants to make this his personal dream to become true, that he will become the #1 person in the world. We have thinking that he wants. What's the Xi Jinping want? Xi Jinping wants. He is the #1 of CCP. CCP becomes on top of the Chinese people. Then CCP becomes CCP control China becomes the #1 country in the world. And for most of Chinese, almost any of Chinese, whether he is pro CCP or he's against CCP, he knows CCP's goal against United States is very clear that CCP regarded the United States as #1 enemy for the past 70 years. I'm sad to say that for the past at least 50 years or 40 years, the United States government did not know this. Did not know that CCP regarded U.S. as #1 enemy. Because CCP knows that he has a tyrannic country, he has a tyrannic regime, but the United States should stand for the freedom in the past at least 100 years since World War I, right? So it's very. I'm so glad to see that President Mike, yes, Chairman Mike, yes.
I'm not old enough to be president.
Two more years, right?
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm very happy to see that Chairman Mike makes the correct choice that CCP is enemy of the United States now. It's not the Chinese. Chinese is not the enemy of the United States. CCP is, and standing together with Chinese, United States government, United States people could take down CCP. Thank you.
Happy to answer any questions from the media, sir. Yeah. I did send a letter to the FBI, really not to slam them, but to request a briefing for the entire Select Committee on China to understand how they're dealing with the issue of transnational repression broadly and CCP police stations in particular. I do think we need to do a lot of work in terms of equipping the FBI with the resources and expertise they need to act with greater alacrity in the future. I think there wasn't a quick enough response, but it was not intended to slam them. It was more to understand how are they thinking about problems like this, so the next time one of these police stations pops up, we can act quickly and make sure that nobody gets beaten up on the streets of New York. So we're hoping that the FBI Director Wray will come brief the committee. It can be behind closed doors. It doesn't need to be a media spectacle. Sorry to the media. But we just want to learn more, and we want to work productively with federal law enforcement and local law enforcement to defend American citizens and people that are living here in America from transnational repression.
Chairman Gallagher, you wrote the American Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong. What do you expect, or what would you like to hear from the AmCham?
Well, first, the concern about Hong Kong. If the American Chamber of Commerce is praising the rule of law in Hong Kong, in my opinion, I'm speaking just for myself, not the entire committee, they don't understand what's happening in Hong Kong. Because, of course, Xi Jinping eviscerated the rule of law in Hong Kong. And in so doing, and this was honestly one of the biggest takeaways from my recent trip to Taiwan, is they watched what happened in Hong Kong, and it has completely destroyed the idea of one country, two systems. That's a fiction that nobody believes anymore, such that even Xi Jinping's closest advisors, Wang Huning, foremost among them, is revising how they talk about one country, two systems, because they blew up that idea. So my hope is that the American Chamber in Hong Kong, business leaders everywhere, will understand what's going on and stand up for the rule of law, not praise the farce that is Xi Jinping's undermining the rule of law.
Thank you.
Oh, 我下去也太冷了。
Okay. Well, so I think you gave me the document earlier. I need to read it. I think we have an issue where people and organizations in the United States that are effectively acting on behalf of the CCP sometimes don't register as foreign agents, as is required by our law. Sometimes former members of Congress or high-level people in D.C. don't register under FARA, the Foreign Agent Registration Act, or the Lobbying Disclosure Agreement requirement. We need to tighten up all those procedures, so if you are acting as a spokesperson or a lobbyist or an agent of the CCP, you can't hide, and you certainly can't register as a nonprofit if you're going to harass people on American soil. So we're going to take a look at all those laws and make sure there aren't any loopholes that the CCP can exploit. Yes, ma'am. So I did 4 days in Taiwan. I would say my biggest takeaways are, one, our friends in Taiwan are doing a lot of the right things, increasing their defense spending, extending conscription from 4 months to a year. We need to be moving faster to arm them with the asymmetric weapons they need to defend themselves. And my friend was talking about peace. I agree. I think Xi Jinping's legacy issue is the reunification of Taiwan by force if necessary with the mainland. He's talked about it repeatedly, and if there's one lesson that we learned from Ukraine, it's that when dictators and authoritarians tell you they're going to do something, you might listen to that. So our best chance of preserving the peace, that's what it's about. It's about peace. We're not trying, it's about peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait, is to give our friends in Taiwan the resources they need to defend themselves, as well as deepen our economic and diplomatic integration. So a lot of people are trying to move in the right direction. I don't think we're moving fast enough. It's why it's important to have members of Congress in bipartisan fashion go to Taiwan to understand what's happening there and support and defend the free world. Taiwan is on the front lines of authoritarian expansion right now. And though an actual kinetic war is not happening right now, what President Tsai calls cognitive warfare is happening right now. Attempts to instill fear in the Taiwanese people and collapse their will to fight and resist. So we need to stand with them, because I guarantee you that what happens in Taiwan will not stay in Taiwan. Las Vegas rules don't apply. We will be unable to fulfill our treaty commitments with Japan, the Philippines. We will be unable to project power in the Pacific. There will be attacks on our homeland, at least in the cyber domain, in any conflict with Taiwan. So we also have 100,000 American citizens there that we have to protect. So back there, yes, sir. Well, there's some discussion about whether to declassify what's happening in terms of Chinese support to Russia. I think we should absolutely put it all in the public domain. I think one of the positive things the administration did during the initial parts of the invasion of Ukraine is really lean forward in declassifying information to show to the world what's going on. It's my opinion that increasingly Vladimir Putin is Xi Jinping's junior partner in a struggle against the West. Xi Jinping's able to buy cheap energy resources from Vladimir Putin right now. To separate these two problem sets, I think, would be a mistake. So we should expose it, number one. We should look at the full suite of sanctions we have available, if indeed they go forward. But perhaps the best thing we can do is to learn the right lessons from Ukraine. And the lesson, in my opinion, of Ukraine is that in order to preserve the peace, you need to put hard power in a dictator's path to make him think twice. If we want to avoid another catastrophic collapse of deterrence like we saw 1 year and a day ago in Ukraine across the Taiwan Strait, that's the lesson we need to learn. Yeah, sure. Well, and I would like to invite my colleagues to comment on this as well. Speaker McCarthy formed the Select Committee on China to elevate and inject with a sense of urgency the United States policy vis-a-vis the Chinese Communist Party, and to explain to the American people why this matters. Why should someone in Northeast Wisconsin care about the threat posed by the CCP or the fact that American citizens are being harassed on the streets of New York? It's our job to explain that. It's also our job to make sure that good ideas, good policy, and legislation, even in divided government, are advancing. And that's why we want it to be bipartisan. And in that spirit, I don't know, I invite my colleague, Richard Torres, to comment.
For me, the central challenge of our time is the strategic competition between the United States and the CCP. And it's not a single issue, it implicates every issue. And we have to ask ourselves, what kind of world do we want to live in? Do we want to live in a world that is led by the United States and governed by the rule of law and freedom? Or do you want to live in a world where you're subject to the surveillance of a government like the CCP? And I believe in the world order that we built because it has prevented 2 world wars, and it's given us the most productive and prosperous world we've ever known, and we should fight to keep it.
I just want to stress that this is a very, very bipartisan issue. In a divided government, we still have areas where almost all of us agree right up and down the line. And nobody in Washington, no significant group in Washington, is opposed to doing something about China. And what Speaker McCarthy recognized was we weren't doing enough. And hence, he got Chairman Gallagher put together a select committee that's seriously bipartisan and really works very well together to do exactly that. Counter this threat on its interview on many, many levels. It's going to be seen many, many levels. A lot of work for us.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. I think well, one, please let's talk after so I can get the details of the incident. I think it's up to us in Congress to conduct oversight of the executive branch. I'm on the Intel Committee as well. We do oversight of the FBI, so we want to make sure that we know the details of these cases and that we're productively pressuring the FBI to do their job. So you have my assurances that I'll raise it with Director Ray, and I think we can have a more productive path going forward. So thank you. Yes, sir.
Everybody's dead. Every single person.
I haven't read that specific report, I apologize, but I will say, I think one area where the select committee needs to play a leading role
it could
is
be anything else. Nobody's
our
watching.
colleagues about the nature of CCP United
That's
Front
hers.
Work. As those of you here today, you understand, right? It's this unique combination of intelligence operations and influence operations. It's what Xi Jinping calls a magic weapon. It's been there since the creation of the CCP. It's embedded in their DNA. Most of our colleagues aren't aware of what United Front Work is, and they are targets of United Front Work, sometimes unwitting. So on the Select Committee on the CCP, we are going to take on the job of educating our colleagues about United Front Work and making sure that nobody is being targeted by an organization that has a innocent sounding name like the Peaceful Reunification Committee, but actually reports directly to the United Front Work Department, which has thousands and thousands of people, many more than our own State Department, trying to undermine and subvert our democracy. Other questions? Yes, ma'am. Thank you, I appreciate that. And obviously, the origins of America involve fleeing religious persecution. So we have a duty embedded in our Constitution to protect religious freedom. So thank you very much. Other question right there? Yes, sir. Yeah. I'm not trying to understand the question. I apologize. Yeah, sure. Need help?
Oh, sorry, Cat. Don't have
Well, we're here to stand with all of these groups. We're here to stand on behalf of human rights and do what we can in Congress to fight to make sure that the CCP isn't repressing communities on American soil. And so that's what today is all about. I can say, having come back from Taiwan, as I said before, a few days ago, they're feeling the pressure right now. They're feeling that ideological aggression. They're feeling that cognitive warfare. And so simply by standing up together and expressing our solidarity with these groups, I think we can send a strong signal to the CCP. So that is what today is all about. I thank you all for being here. I think we maybe have time for one more question. Yeah. The committee will be having its first hearing on Tuesday night in prime time. We urge you all to tune in. We are going to be having a hearing entitled "The Chinese Communist Party Threat to America," to understand how we got here, what we got wrong about the CCP, what we misunderstood, why this bet we made on integrating China into the global economy in the hope that it would moderate their political behavior, their aggression abroad, their repression at home, why that failed, and to understand what we need to know about the Chinese Communist Party in order to win this competition going forward. We have some great witnesses, including those who represent mothers from Tiananmen Square. It's going to be a great hearing. We're also going to be doing an event at the Victims of Communism Memorial on Monday night with a lot of the groups that you're familiar with, which will be another great event if you happen to be in Washington, D.C. Tuesday is also a day that's important for Hong Kong. We're going to be speaking about that, but this will be our first big hearing, and so we urge you all to tune in, and we look forward to working with you going forward. As my colleagues mentioned, we want this to be a bipartisan effort. I know we're not going to agree on 100% of everything. I'm not naive. I've been in Congress for 7 years. Nobody agrees on 100% of everything. I don't even agree with my own family on 100% of everything, but we want to identify what the bipartisan center of gravity is, and we believe, and the Speaker believes, that where possible, if Congress can speak with one voice when it comes to standing up against and pushing back against Chinese Communist Party aggression, America is stronger, the world is stronger, the free world is stronger. So that's what we're going to do. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your words.
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
Jimmy, that's your bag?
Yeah.
Just a cable? But that's our cable.
USA! 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 打倒共产党！别唱了！
太快下来了。
太满了，你们。
那这边不行了，你们太这里了。那边不可以了，不可以了，掉下去了。
打倒共产党！打倒共产党！
You right?
打倒共产党！打倒习近平！暴政必亡！民主万岁！打倒共产党！打倒习近平！把人大法好！真善人好！
别跑，别跑，别让咱们不喊口号了。谁呀？这谁？别人听不懂。老外听不懂。这谁呀？这家有真是的，最极端的。
就共产党的那个大竞赛啊，
好的哈。Thank you for coming. Yeah. Glad to meet with you. Yeah.
Which one? That one there?
I declare. 今天这个活动当然意义非常重大，就是美国这个国会新成立的反共委员会反共委员会第一次的公开活动，选择的这个地方集中在一起，这是一个非常重大的事情。是美国的这个
人我知道。
声音，知道我们的
太重要了。
中共攻击威胁，他们绝对不能允许。这是相当对这个是非常重大的。
他让我们编的搞对外，
直接停，挂了就停了是吧？
翻过来，
是吧？